World News on the morning of February 10, leaders of Japan-Philippines hold talks, UNESCO awards Angela Merkel, Disney cuts 7,000 jobs. Asia. Japan Times. During Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos's visit to Tokyo, the two sides signed a number of important defense and economic cooperation agreements amid growing concerns about China's regional aggression. Kyoto. The Japanese government is considering easing quarantine measures for visitors from China amid a recent drop in the incidence of COVID-19 among visitors from the country. Ani. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim on February 9 held talks with his Thai counterpart Prayuth Chan-o-cha with the focus on promoting economic cooperation and finding cooperation directions to help the two countries' economies. Quick recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic. CNAS. From February 3, Singapore lifted the requirement that passengers who have not received the basic dose of the COVID-19 vaccine provide a certificate of negative test or purchase travel insurance that covers the cost of COVID-19 treatment. Vientiane Times. On February 9, Lao Prime Minister Sonexay Siphandun chaired a meeting of the National Steering Committee on the Preparation and Administration of the 2024 ASEAN Chair Year in Laos. Bangkok Post. Banks in Thailand are working to develop technological infrastructure to prevent high-tech crime in the financial sector that is taking a toll on the Thai economy. Tempo. Indonesia is drafting a law that would make digital platforms or other tools that publish journalistic content pay media outlets. PTI. India is considering extending a ban on wheat exports as the world's second-largest producer looks to replenish state reserves and lower domestic prices. Europe. AFP. UNESCO presents the prestigious annual Felix Houphouët-Boigny Peace Prize to former German Chancellor Angela Merkel, in recognition of her efforts in policies to support refugees during her time in office. Reuters. On February 9, Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Brussels to discuss military aid, supply of energy production equipment to Ukraine, the process of Kiev joining the EU. NATO. Finland may not directly deliver tanks to Ukraine before joining NATO, according to a senior official at the organization. Guardian. Germany has announced it will increase humanitarian aid to Syria by €26 million to meet the growing needs of its people after a devastating earthquake that killed more than 3,200 people. DW. Germany and Oman intensify discussions to conclude a long-term agreement on the supply of liquefied natural gas, LNG, for at least 10 years, as Berlin continues to search for an alternative fuel source from Russia. BBC. The British government will give Northern Ireland a one-year extension to hold elections and form a new government after a deadlock over a post-Brexit deal showed no signs of progress. Eurative. The Italian government decided to allocate €125 billion to the national health system to alleviate staff shortages and long waiting lists, according to Health Minister Orazio Scilisi. Al Arabiya. Italy's Siena City Council closed museums, schools, and universities after a small earthquake and dozens of aftershocks hit the southern tourist Tuscan city. Bloomberg. Poland will close the Bobrowniki border crossing with Belarus until further notice, Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński said. Americas. Quipasa. On February 9, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel presided over a ceremony honoring Pope Juan Pablo II at the University of Havana on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the Pope's visit to the Caribbean island nation. CNN. The United States has imposed a number of new sanctions against Iran's gasoline and petrochemical businesses for allegedly playing a large role in the production, sale, and transportation of gasoline and petrochemical products to partners in Asia. Reuters. The U.S. denied the report by investigative journalist Seymour Hersh that Washington was behind the destruction of the Nord Stream gas pipeline in September 2022. AP US, British and Australian forces conduct a 3-week joint Air Force exercise Red Flag in and out of the Nevada desert. American Medical Association. Young men living in America's most violent cities, Chicago and Philadelphia, face a higher risk of death from a gun than U.S. soldiers fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. CNN. Disney Entertainment announced plans to cut 7,000 jobs to restructure the world's largest entertainment company to save operating costs. CNAS. Peruvian authorities have partially resumed rail service to the holy site of Machu Picchu after nearly 3 weeks of suspension due to anti-government protests. Fox News. Panamanian authorities have announced that they will allow Iranian Navy ships to pass through the Panama Canal if they comply with international regulations. AP Mexico attracted $35.3 billion in foreign direct investment, FDI, in 2022, up 12% from 2021, the country's highest FDI attraction since 2015. Africa. OCHA. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, says more than 8.3 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance in Somalia, where most of the population is on the brink of starvation. WHO. The World Health Organization, WHO, says the most severe cholera outbreak in Malawi's history has killed 1,210 people, while a vaccine is currently scarce. Morocco World News. From January 28 to February 7, the Moroccan Navy rescued 167 migrants who had trouble in the Mediterranean and Atlantic Oceans while trying to reach Spain. Africa News. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reiterated its goal of producing 60% of the vaccine doses needed on the continent by 2040. Oceania. AAP. The Australian and Indonesian foreign and defence ministers met in Canberra on February 9 to discuss bilateral relations and Indo-Pacific security. ABC. Test results found more than 900 units of surveillance equipment made by companies affiliated with the Chinese government in Commonwealth government buildings.